Hey guys, welcome back to another install video for Xfil Off-Road. Today I'm really excited. I get to install the Summit Series front bumper from Rebel Off-Road. These have got to be some of the nicest front stubby bumpers that I've seen on the market to date, and I really wanted one for my JL, but I had the OEM steel front bumper that was a stubby, and I just decided to keep that rather than kind of throw away that money. That said, I'll be able to also delete some fog lights that are halogen and replace them with Baja Designs fog lights that are meant for street driving and their LEDs. Very bright stuff. So I'm really happy about that, and let's jump right in. Alright, as you can see, this Rebel Off-Road Summit Series bumper is cut really nice. I really like the lines on this thing. It's a true stubby, and it basically contours the vehicle's grill really nicely. These things look amazing all mounted up. They prefabbed 2x2 light holes. Your winch, again, you can just direct bolt a winch to this bumper. It has the Rebel Off-Road little logo in the front here. The screws are blacked out. The whole thing's powder coated. It comes with all the stuff that you need to just bolt this thing on and directions. Should be really straightforward. Let's get this OEM bumper off. This big old plastic thing right here. It does look nice, but again, it's plastic and it does cover up these wheels, and I really enjoy the look of these things when these front wheels are not covered up by a bumper. So let's take this thing off and get it rocking, and then we're going to put these Baja Design lights into it as well. Alright, according to these directions, all you're going to need is a 1/2-inch ratchet, 3/4 socket, 9/16 socket, 3/4 wrench, and a 9/16 wrench with a 5mm hex key. That's about it. Then it gives you step-by-step directions on what you're going to be doing with this new bumper. So let's get this other one out of the way first. If you're going to drop off this bumper, you need to remove these two 8mm screws that are holding this guard in place, and they're mounted to part of the crash bars in the front. So it'll allow it to drop off, so once that weight comes down, you're not going to like bend this thing in half. Alright, the next thing I'm going to do is pop off these little tabs behind the bumper so that I can pull off this little cover right here and get to the fog lights and disconnect them before dropping down this bumper. I don't want to pull out anything or wreck any kind of wiring harnesses. Pretty easy with a long screwdriver, flathead. Go ahead and pop off. Two of them are against the bumper, and then there's several more that are lined up against the front of the bumper. Alright, now that's out, we'll have access to be able to easily reach these disconnects. So this is your fog light connection. And you're going to depress this tab right here, this facing, and pull it this way to get it to disconnect. And then what we're going to likely be doing is cutting this to be able to reuse with the factory harness on the aftermarket lights.
You breathe and beat your heart, but
so you got,
it comes time to actually deal with
8 of these 18mm nuts that are on the back side of these crash bars mounting your bumper up. So we're going to go ahead and take all these off and drop this bumper down. This is probably one of the most useful tools that I've had when working on my vehicles. This one itself is a 3/8 drive automatic. It's awesome. It makes ratcheting so much faster, and it reverses, goes forward. Awesome tool, highly recommended. These Milwaukee brushless pneumatic Alright, there you go. 4 bolts, one 2 screws at the bottom, 4 bolts, 1 wiring harness, and you can drop off this bumper. Next thing we're gonna do is remove these 16mm bolts and take down this little skid plate that backed up the bumper. Pop it up. Seating. It's got these 2 little tabs on the back, and then we'll just pop those up and it'll come right off. Now you have open access to all your steering components, but we're gonna put the bumper back on with a skid plate. Alright, so this next step for mounting this, they want you to use these triangular inserts and put them along these 3 holes. So there's a round one and then 2 octagon shaped ones. So it's going to go just like this, but inside, and then you need a 3/8 by 1 inch bolt with a washer, and the inside of this guy right here is actually threaded, so when you bolt it in, it's threading into this. It's not clear whether or not there's supposed to be any nuts on the other side of it to further secure it, but I'm going to go ahead and use some blue Loctite just in case there's not, because that's gonna be, I just don't want it to come loose. So again, insert it oriented with the holes lined up, and then back to the ratchet and tighten it up. And it just wants you to do these top bolts on both sides. We'll go ahead and do the same thing to the other side over here. And again, these things line up in a very specific way. So there's a top and a bottom to these things just based on the way these holes are. Put some more blue Loctite on, just in case. A washer. Alright, so I opted to go with the skid plate for this bumper. I think it's gonna look good and clean it up, again, an additional weight. So plan for that in your lift, because heavy bumpers and all that other stuff are gonna bring down your vehicle. So what it wants us to do is line up these mounting holes with the bottom of the actual bumpers, and then get it all situated and flush. Tighten it down with these provided 3/8 bolts by 1 inch, using the locking washers underneath with the locking nuts. So let's go ahead and drop in and do that. Okay, so we have the skid plate on top of the bumper, and the good news is that it balances out really well, so there's not too much crazy stuff going on. However, that said, what we're going to be doing is taking one of these 3/8 nuts or 3/8 bolts by 1 inch on the 9/16 inch ratchet with a locking washer, and screwing them into these already welded on nuts. So it shouldn't move too much. Again, I'm going to use some blue Loctite and put them all in. There's 6 of them that need to go on. There's 6 of them that need to go on in total. Line this up, but we'll get it all straightened out and put on pretty. All right, so we have the bumper with the skid plate underneath it. We mounted it up, but what I did do before I mounted up this skid plate to like kind of line it up was I ran these bolts through, or a bolt through all these welded on nuts, because some of the powder coating got in there and it binded it up. So I didn't want to have any issues with not being able to get some of these bolts in once I already had other ones in, because you can't really apply any pressure with the angles in here, so you just kind of have to get it ready to go beforehand. So the next thing I did was I put Loctite, blue Loctite on all of these bolts that I'm putting in, and you're using the locking washer with each bolt going into the welded on nut on the back. Now we have the skid plate onto the bumper. What we're going to do is mount the bumper to the crash bars now in the factory positions. There's already bolts that are fastened onto this bumper, so there's no need to worry about that. With this bracket, it lines up on these two holes here, and then we're gonna remove this factory bolt and replace it with this bracket behind it. Next thing we're gonna do, these are just on and not tight, but what we're gonna do is tighten up these frame mount positions. So we have the frame horns buttoned up tight, and we have these top L brackets that just need to be further secured nice and tight. I left them a little loose so that everything would kind of slide into place the right way. The last thing that we're going to do is take the bottom two L brackets and we're going to secure them to the skid plate. There's quite a bit of modularity here for movement. We can go ahead and slide it back and forth and up and down to be able to fit just right, so I'm not too worried about that fitting up right. The directions are very clear. On the JL or the JT model, you're going to use the inner set of holes that are there and then bolt those things up on both sides, and should be pretty smooth. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of that, and then we'll jump into these lights. Alright guys, this bumper is on, and the biggest challenge I think was lining up these frame bolts to line up with the frame. Those welds on Jeep's thing were just totally kind of off, and there was no way they were going to line up without some trimming there. No surprise. There's two holes right here, 1 and 2. And those are going to be used to basically mount the bracket for those 2x2 lights that are going to be in here. So it should be really simple and straightforward on that. And then it's the wiring, and I'm going to try to wire these into the factory harness. I got these really cool Baja Designs Squadron Sport. They're driving combo LED. These things are super clean, super bright, and they're going to bracket right in and fit really nicely on this bumper. So they have this harness here. I'll use this harness and tie it into the OEM harness. I think that this is probably the most valuable thing that is part of this install for anybody else to just not waste time. This wiring harness is kind of long, and it has lots of crap on it. But that said, essentially, you're taking 2 of these that have white and black leads. Okay, the white is the hot, and the black is the ground. The wiring harness on your vehicle has 3 wires. This orange and white, yellow and white, and then black. What you need to do is take the orange and white and yellow and white and tie it into your hot, which is your red. Then you take the black and you tie it into the black, which is your ground. So as you can see, this is the one that buttons up to the factory wiring harness, and there's 3 cables. That's the hot, one for each light, and then the ground, and then it's tied into the whole system. So what I did was, this kit doesn't come with a quick play or a quick plug, so what I did was I wired in. It does come with 2 of these plugs, and you can wire them from the get. So you would take the little washer, little weather seal, and put the wire through it, and then put the wire through and crimp down around the wire on to this plug that goes inside of this casing, and then you close it down on the backside, and it's set and it won't come out. That's what keeps it in there, and you plug it in. So again, the 2 colors go into the red The black goes into the opposite. And now you have this factory harness onto the Baja Designs harness, and there's still a lot of extra because his bumper's small, but all this extra stuff, you don't need to wire it, and it works on the factory plug, the factory fog light switch. Everything's good to go. So I hope that helps, saves you some time, and yeah, so let's plug this in. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap the rest of this and then plug it in, and then it's really good, and then just clean up the rest of this wiring. For the Baja Designs mount onto the bumper, there's that single hole that goes down. You just bolt it down, and then this is the bracket for it, and then you can slide it and then tighten it with like a crescent wrench and a ratchet on the bottom to where you want it. I have mine just clearing the front of this bumper, and it's maneuverable so I can position it the way I want to. And then I'm going to tighten down these Allen keys and get it into place, and it'll look like that. I mean, just barely enough clearance, and then I'll show it to you guys with them on, and we'll be good to go. Alright guys, we're all done. Bumper looks great. It's evident that it needs either a winch plate cover for that big gap, or a winch. That's another project for another time. The OEM wiring harness was a pain in the butt to kind of figure out. I was kind of nervous about doing it because I'm not really big on wiring, but it worked out, and hopefully it gives you an example of how to do it, because I didn't see any others out there. Those Baja Design lights look great with the aftermarket Oculus headlights that are LEDs. Now I just need to get rid of those Fender halogen lights, and it'll tie together and look really good. So I'm waiting on the Highlines from American Adventure Lab. That'll be another install. But that said, I mean, this bumper looks great. Hopefully it gives you the courage to install one at your house, and then you'll be able to wire in some aftermarket lights if you want to, if they don't have that plug and play ability, into that factory wiring harness, and you can still use your OEM stuff. So I really like that. It looks clean, it works great, and then you don't have any issues or bugs within your wiring system. That said, thanks for watching this video. I put a lot of time into these things. Leave some comments if you feel that you need to. I'll answer them as I can. Be sure to subscribe and like the video, and we'll see you on the next install.